Welcome back to A Fresh Story, the podcast where we have conversations about brave decisions to start over again. I'm Olivia.
And I'm Jenny, and we're so glad you're here today.
Hello, sister. How are you?
I'm very well. How are you?
I'm okay. Did you eat anything good today so far?
I had cereal, which I haven't eaten in so long.
I had cornflakes last night.
But I bought it at the grocery store. It was on offer, which is on sale here on the Uke. And it was Halloween themed, so it was on sale. And honestly, I had kind of a grumpy day because of some package issues that I'm having. And I had the cereal. I also had cold leftovers, which was also very good. Yeah.
Speaking of packages, we talked to Lindsay White. Yeah, packaging. Who is milk. There you go. We talked to our friend Lindsay White. She is the founder of the Little Milk Bar, which, if you don't know, the Little Milk Bar, they are a breastfeeding brand, as she says on her Instagram. So I've known Lindsay, oh my gosh, almost 10 years through internet life. I feel like I know everybody in some capacity at this point. We've been on the internet for so long. But back when I started, well, at the time, it was Howell Media House. Actually, no, I think it was Howell Social Media back then. I worked with a lot of small women-owned businesses at the time. A lot of them were just Etsy shops, and a lot of them are still around to this day. And I would help them in any capacity, just trying to get their name out there. And we became friendly. And Lindsay, at the time, was this small Etsy shop. She had just started. And now the Little Milk Bar is a multi-million-dollar company and brand. And she is a media maven and marketing genius. It happens to be like a really, really good person on top of all that.
Yeah.
So we had a great conversation with her about how she started the company, breastfeeding, and using your voice, right? What does her shirt say? Use your voice even when it shakes.
Even when it shakes.
Even if it shakes. And so I just thought she'd be a perfect way to kick off the season about using your voice. And we're just really grateful that she took the time to chat with us because she's a busy lady. So enjoy the episode with Lindsay, and please remember to rate, review, and subscribe to A Fresh Story so that we can keep telling fresh start stories. Today we're talking to Lindsay. She is the founder and CEO of the Little Milk Bar, which is a brand that empowers breastfeeding moms and all women, giving them permission to feed their baby whenever and wherever they need to, with or without a cover. She lives in Salt Lake, Utah, with her 3 kids and her very cute husband. And she always says that the Little Milk Bar is a community first and selling product second, which we're really all about here at Fresh Starts. And I'm just going to say I've known Lindsay through the media world and product world for almost 15 years. I think it's been a long time. Before you were the Little Milk Bar, when you were still your other brand. Lindsay, you are an inspiration. Like, you truly are. You work so hard, and you are so much about empowering women. So I'm just thrilled to have you here and really excited to hear all about your Fresh Start.
I'm excited to be here. When you asked me to come on, I'm like, yeah, how cool is that? I mean, podcasts are fun to listen to, but it's really fun to be on the other side and be the one that's interviewed sometimes too. So
why don't you take us back to your 2-footed Fresh Start story?
Okay, so I was trying to think about this, and I realized I kind of have 2. Is it okay if I share 2?
Yeah, let's hear it. Yeah.
My first Fresh Start. So I was working at a company where we manufactured filters for water treatment plants for municipalities. And I was a project manager, kind of just stumbled into this job, worked my way up from office manager, and then was project manager. I mean, out of college, like, it was a dream job at my age. Like, the money I was making, I got to travel a lot, which before this job, I had never traveled anywhere other than for sports. And it was just cool. We got to go to all these places. And I was like, wow, this is an amazing job. Well, about 5 years into it, I had a kid while I was there. So Allie was about 2 years old at this time. And I remember going to work and I started dreading it. Every day I would go and I was like, I just don't want to go. Like I didn't look forward to it anymore. I felt like I had reached my peak, my max. And I was like, this is not what I want to do. And then I was at work one day thinking, I want to start my own business. I want to be my own business owner, and I want to be able to have more time with my kids, because by the time I get home from work, I pick up the baby from the daycare, and then I have to get home and we have an hour before bedtime. Like this really sucks. So I went to school I got my degree in business, but my minor was in graphic design. So I knew how to use the computer and how to put designs together. I went on my computer one day during my lunch and I started designing a bunch of like patterns, which I had never done before. But then I like Googled how to get your own fabric printed. And I was like, what can I make and like sell on Etsy? Because I feel like back then, this was like 2012, 2013, something like that. Mm-hmm. I was like, oh, there's this place you can sell stuff and you can make money and like build a business called Etsy. So I'm like, I'm going to start this business where I can cut and sew baby leggings. And I was like, I can do this. So I ordered all this fabric and then I'm like, but I don't know how to sew. so what do I do now? So over the weekend, I YouTubed like how to cut and sew baby leggings. And like I practiced on like crappy fabric. And then I just learned in a couple days how to do it. And then I started cutting and sewing baby leggings with my fabric and put it up on Etsy. And that was a company called Lot 801. Mm-hmm. And I ran that and did my full-time job for about a year. And I was so naive. I thought, man, this business is going to take off. Like, this is great. And I'm going to be able to quit my job. Well, a year into it, it wasn't taking off. And I was hating my job every minute. So I was like, you know what? Nothing's going to move forward if I don't go all in. So I quit my job and went all in with Law 801, which looking back, I was crazy because I'm like, I wasn't even making a dime from that. Like, what was I thinking? We had just bought a house. I was the breadwinner. My husband's career hadn't quite taken off yet. We kind of had enough in savings that I'm like, I think this will last. I know I can make this work. Well, like 3 years passed and still was not able to take an income. It was about time for me to get a job. So this is so fresh start was number one was that quitting my job and jumping into the entrepreneurship world. Fresh start 2. So here I am. I own Lot 801. Nothing's taking off. Needing to get a job. And I was pregnant with my son, Coda. So my second kid. And I was thinking a lot about breastfeeding. And I'm like, well, I hated breastfeeding the first time, every minute of it. You're so alone all the time. Already as a new mom, postpartum in general, but then breastfeeding when you're in a room all the time, when you're with your friends and it's time to feed and they're like, oh, you can go in my room and feed. And you just say, okay. And you go, but then you're just like, you realize how much you're isolated. And so that took a big toll on me. I like to hang out with people. I'm a social person. So when I found out I was pregnant with Coda, I promised myself that I would have more confidence this time and I would just live my life regularly while I just happened to be breastfeeding, and I wouldn't let it take so much control of my life. So that changed everything for me when I had him. Here I am still cutting and sewing with this baby attached to me in my like wrap that I had. And then this is where it changed. So I'm trying to decide, do I go find a job or actually that was my only option. I'm like, oh, so I'm at a wedding and I'm feeding my son and my mom comes over to me and she says, hey, Lindsay, do you really think you should be doing that here? Maybe you should go to the bathroom and do that. This is like a really nice event. And I just looked at her and I remember thinking, and don't get me wrong, me and my mom have a great relationship. I love my mom. So it wasn't her being intentionally rude. That's just also how she was raised. Yeah. She didn't know any different. And I just looked at her and I thought, man, if she had said this to me 5 years ago with Allie, I would have gotten right up, went right to the bathroom, in tears, would have been embarrassed and been crying in the bathroom while I was feeding her. But thankfully this time I have more confidence. So instead I looked at her and I just said, no, thank you. Like, we're comfortable where we're at. And that was that. On my drive home, I remember turning to my husband and I said, I want to be that best friend. And he was like, what do you mean? What are you talking about? And I'm like, yeah, he's like, context here.
Mm-hmm.
I'm like, everybody just needs to be told that it's okay to breastfeed. Like, I thought of all the times I went to lunch with my friends, and every time I needed to feed, I would say, hey, I'll be back. I'm going to go feed her. And I'd either go to my car or I'd go to the public restroom and feed her. And again, like nothing on my friends because they just thought that's what I needed to do. But man, wouldn't it have been nice if one of my friends said, hey, it's okay. You can feed right here. Like, eat your lunch with us. We don't mind. That would have changed everything for me. Yeah. So I thought, I want to be that best friend for every new parent out there who's feeding and just doesn't know their rights, just doesn't know that they can feed where they're at, that they don't have to go in a private room. And I want to tell everybody that. So I went home and I like in a night rebranded everything. Like I realized La Ida one was not working. The leggings, I don't have a passion towards it. There was nothing, sentimental about it for me. And so like I had designed this milk maker logo, and it had been sitting on my laptop for probably like 6 months. And I was like, you know what? I think I'm going to try and release a t-shirt. And, I don't know how to do that. I had never done t-shirts before. So I I kept calling around Utah, cause that's where I live. And I'm like, where can I find somebody who can screen print t-shirts? And what are the minimum quantities? How much what will this cost me out of pocket? Cause I don't have money to invest. And I called this one guy and he's like, yeah, we can do like a small run. We can do 36 pieces as our minimum. And I think he told me it was like, I don't know, $11.50 per t-shirt to print. And I'm like, okay, I think I can do that. Like, I think I have enough in the business that I can like do a small run. So I did. And we ended up like selling out within 24 hours. And that let me know like, wow, the world needs this. It's not just me. Mm-hmm. And so, I completely so then we doubled up inventory, re-released, and then they sold out in 48 hours. And I was like, this is needed as much as I think it is. So I completely dropped all the baby leggings, started focusing just on breastfeeding parents and empowerment and education there. And then it just started to take off from there. So those are my 2 fresh start stories.
I get so emotional listening to you because I've known you for a while, but also you do with that community what we do so much at Fresh Starts, which is just to be the big sister. And you are a sister, right? And so you understand what it's like to be a sister. I also want to give you credit though, because you didn't just rebrand overnight, which you did, but you were building community for a long time. So can you talk a little bit about how you are a natural community builder? I want listeners to really fully understand what you've built because it is massive in terms of community. And I want you to really brag about yourself during this episode because I don't think people understand what happens when you put a new release out. And just if you could talk us through, I guess, like building the community and where the company has gone, because it is so fucking inspirational that I think I just need people to understand like what you have done.
Okay, so you're right. I did start a community first. And you don't realize the power of storytelling until you start telling a story. People really, I feel like a lot of people feel alone in their individual stories, but once we start talking about them publicly, we realize how many people are going through the same thing that we are. We're really never alone. We just feel alone because nobody's talking about it to each other. Yep. And so when I started sharing stories, so social media, let's talk about that. Instagram is where I built my social media following first. And then TikTok kind of came second. But Instagram, I always say this, find a better community on Instagram. You won't. Like, absolutely. Don't get me wrong. There'll be people with bigger followers. There'll be people with like a great community, but like our community has each other's back like no other because we've talked so openly about the struggles that we go through. And so when I started that community, I would talk about breastfeeding, and I was pretty intentional on how we released the Milk Maker t-shirt. So leading up to the release of that, I did start to introduce breastfeeding into the conversation. We started talking about who else feels like you're constantly alone because you're constantly breastfeeding, especially when it's a newborn and you're just always in a room by yourself. And so we started to have those conversations early on, and I made it my point to make sure and respond to every comment. I think at that time we probably had maybe 20,000 followers on Instagram. So, and back then algorithm wasn't a thing. Yeah. So almost everyone would see our posts and we'd get a lot of comments. So I would reply, because it takes a lot of courage for a stranger to come out and reply and tell their story. And I never wanted them to feel like we weren't listening. Yeah. So I made it my mission to reply to everyone and let them know.
You still do that. You still do that. You are one of the rare founders that shows up and you're in DMs with people.
Yeah, it takes a lot of time.
It does. It does.
I will tell you it's worth it, because like I said at the beginning, my mission was to be their best friend, and I want them to really feel like that. I don't want them to feel like we're just here to sell them a product. Like, we really are here to support them. And many times people will follow us for a long time, and then they won't even realize we sell a product. And it's just because we don't shove it down their throats. It's like, hey, we're here for you. We actually want to steer you in the direction of your breastfeeding rights when you return back to work. Like, that's a big one too. And so when we talk about those things, we just also mention like, hey, like I have this new Ally bra that we came out with, and it's been amazing for me. And I think you guys would love it too. And so people really trust us because we are them. Does that make sense?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Yeah. So that community is just number one for us. And it's been pretty amazing to see. We'll get stories in our DMs from moms that are like, I follow you, but I still wasn't quite comfortable feeding in public. But I appreciate what you do. I was out today and my son got really hungry, and I was in Target, and he's screaming, I'm about to pack up all my stuff and leave my cart where it is to go to the car. And I turn the corner and I see another woman standing there with one of your Milk Maker t-shirts. And it immediately makes me realize that I have an army of women behind me and that I can do this. And so and we get this story often. I mean, this one's Target. Sometimes it's Starbucks. Sometimes it's just at the grocery store. But then they will go purposely stand by that woman who's wearing the Milk Maker t-shirt and feed their baby, because they know that woman has her back and she knows it's a safe space.
Do you cry every time you get one of these? Because I'm crying just listening to you talking about it.
Every time. It never, ever, ever gets old. Like, every time I read it, I'm sobbing. And I'm like,
I mean, it's so, because that's how you change the world. That is actually actively how you change the world. And I don't think people realize how little it takes to be that army for someone. And we'll get into it later, because you turn that into a marketing tool too, because you're a genius. But I love that. So you built this community, and then how did you integrate the products and start making money?
Yeah. So I built the community. I'm wanting to release this Milk Maker t-shirt, but I needed people to really understand. So I knew it wouldn't do well if I just released it into the world and had zero context behind it. People would be like, whoa, how'd this happen? You went from baby leggings to like this Milk Maker t-shirt. What does it mean? And honestly, most importantly, like my dad, I remember him saying, wow, why would anybody buy that t-shirt? Like, it's just a t-shirt. And I'm like, Dad, it's not just a t-shirt. It's what it stands for. It's what it means. And so like, I had to get my community on board to understand the meaning behind it. So we would talk about those stories. We would talk about being scared at Starbucks. And I don't know if you guys have ever felt this, but if you're breastfeeding and you're out for the first time and your baby gets hungry and you just haven't thought of it yet, and you just look down and your palms are sweaty, you're nervous, you don't know what to do. Do I go to my car? Do I need to put a blanket over me? I don't really know what I'm doing. And your heart starts pounding. It's a very scary moment. And so we talked about that openly with our community, and how it's okay if you feel that. And it's okay if you decide to go to the car. Like, you need to do whatever feels comfortable for you, but just know that you don't have to. And I hope that you're not doing it for anybody else other than yourself. And so once we started talking about that, and we released the Milk Maker t-shirt so people understood the meaning behind it, if we would have just released it without that context, they would have just said Milk Maker, oh cool, breastfeeding. But now they're understanding what it stands for. So then we introduced that And that's what helps sell the product, is really just having the community base, talking openly about the issues that we have, and letting them know that we have their back 100%. I think that's our biggest focus right there.
Yeah, I love that. And you have the blanket too, which was like nationally known.
So we had, there's a company called Gravel and Gold. They're in like San Francisco, and they actually own the design of the original black and white boob blanket that we had. And I would never want to steal anybody's work. I saw it. I thought it was beautiful. Sure, I could maybe create one like it, but I didn't feel good about that. So I reached out to them and I asked if we could license it for the boobs baby blanket. And it was supposed to be a funny, like, hey, you can use this for swaddling. You can use it for a cover if you'd like. You can use it for a changing mat. And you can use it for a cover. Like if somebody came over and said it was supposed to be funny, like, I don't like what you're doing, please cover up. And then you cover up with this blanket full of hundreds of boobs. Like we just thought it was amazing. And so we released that, and that sold out as well. And then after so much time, we decided, because that design is so beautiful, but they put it on like pillows, sweatshirts, they have it on like curtains. So we're like, okay, now we want to come out with one of our own. So we have one that has like all kinds of different skin tones on it. And yeah, like they're one of our biggest sellers too.
Do you still design all the stuff that you release?
I do. And I realize I don't talk about that much because somebody asked us that the other day, and they're like, oh, who designed your stuff? And I was like, oh, we do that all in house. And they were like, wow, we didn't know that. And I'm like, oh, maybe people want to know that. I don't know.
I would love if you do you have a question, Jenny?
No, I was just going to say, like, it's so interesting. I'm not a mom, but so much of the motherhood experience is like socialized to be isolating. Right. So it's like there's so many people that are going to tell you that you have to breastfeed. But then, by the way, when you breastfeed, you have to do it in a room by yourself and don't let anyone know that you're going to breastfeed. And like it. And I just feel like it's such a mitzvah. Can't think of any other word than a mitzvah to do what you're doing, which is like so normalizing and so comforting and so, like you said, you're allowed to feel scared. You're allowed to feel overwhelmed, and that's okay too. And like, maybe you won't always, but like, just so like you can sit with us, just so you can sit with us. You don't have to leave the table. And I just think it's such a beautiful thing because, watching the women that I love become mothers, you see how isolating society wants to make that experience. And, that's not where we came from. And that's not how it's supposed to be. And no. I love it.
Well, and even so social media in general was very isolating of that too. When I started the Little Milk Bar, we couldn't actually even post photos of us breastfeeding. It was against policy. The hard thing that really cringed me was it wasn't just like against policy. The text that it literally said it was sexual and nudity content. And that really got me to my core, because that means that this whole social media network that, whether you like to believe it or not, controls a lot of what happens in the world because it's how we all connect, is telling all of these women and all of these young girls that are also on social media that this is sexual content. And so I took that pretty personally. And instead of just stopping, because I'm like, how do we talk about breastfeeding? How do we create this community without showing photos? I could have just stopped because, it goes against their guidelines and I can't post it. But instead I was like, you know what? No, we need to bring awareness to this. So I amplified it. I screenshotted what they're saying back to me. Because the first time I got that, I thought, it must have just been a bot that saw too much skin. But once I appeal it and like real human eyes are on it, then of course they're going to let it go through. But that didn't happen. Real eyes got on it 6 times and they still said it was sexual content. So I screenshotted it. I shared it in our stories. Like, hey, like people are still telling us that this is not okay, that this is sexual content, and we're just feeding our babies. We put up a petition. I think we got like 26,000 signatures. And like Instagram had to listen. So it was in that same year that Instagram changed their guidelines to now allow breastfeeding content on their social network. So I like to think, and back then when I tell you how many influencers I reached out to try to send the boob baby blanket to, or the milk maker t-shirt, and explained the meaning behind it. And every single one of them turned us down.
Mm-hmm.
They were like, no, we don't believe in this. We think that you should cover up. And I'm like, wow, like and I remember crying because I'm like, why do people think this? Like, it broke my heart.
Mm-hmm.
But now some of those same influencers on their second or third kid are now reaching out to us like, hey, we'd love to work with you. And I'm like, but I don't get mad because I think it's amazing. The whole purpose of this brand is to educate and empower. And if we've changed the mind of this person, then how many more minds can we change?
Yeah. And if you could just give us a general idea of how much you've made over these last couple of years, because you are a very well done business.
And I think people get surprised because we do so much in community and education. Like most of our posts aren't even promoting a product. It's just talking about this. So we hit our first million in 2021. And hold on, what year are we in? 2023?
Yeah.
So we hit our first million in 2021. We doubled it in 2022. 2023 is going to be a weird year just because it's been so unpredictable. Like, and when I say that, it is like, we have no idea. We literally had a strategy through the end of the year this year. We pulled up like how last year went and then the year before, and we're like, wow, these numbers are so off. We will do better than last year, but we just don't know how much yet. Fourth quarter is our biggest.
You're bootstrapped.
Yes. Yeah. 100%.
Yeah.
And still I'm the only owner, which is also fun. It's like everybody assumes. So my husband quit his job 2 years ago. Cause that's when the Little Milk Bar started to build traction, and I was working at home with the kids, and it was chaos. It was so hard. I'm like, wow, if I didn't have to watch the kids, I don't know what I would like, how much better we could do. My husband worked in the hotel industry for many years, 13 years, and he was very burnt out. He was a general manager and he was ready to be done. So I'm like, you know what if you quit your job? Give me 1 year. If you quit, be at home with the kids and let me focus solely on the Little Milk Bar. I promise you I could like double our revenue. And we did. And so 2 years later, he's still at home. But it's fun when we go out to places, because when we introduce each other, everyone always assumes he's the one who owns the business, or that we both do it together. And don't get me wrong, like I know there's a lot of couples that do run businesses together, but that's not us. He's amazing. It would be all me. I couldn't do it.
It's a hard dynamic to bring to a romantic and intimate relationship.
It is. I mean, how do you at home with the kids at home together, and then have intimate time together, and then also be working together? Like, I feel like I would lose my mind.
I think about that sometimes. I used to work with my ex. Like, we just worked at the same company, and that was tough. Like, it's a tough dynamic. I don't recommend it.
I would love to know. So you have done you're a genius marketer. Genius. I talk about you all the time in marketing circles. I would love to know how you pivoted into making these amazing videos with music, and these are like gorgeous pieces of art. So how did that come to be?
So it kind of all started with TikTok, I guess, really, if I started there. In 2020 is when I started my TikTok account. Back then, no brands were on it. It was mostly just dancing. And so I got on there, started breastfeeding education. We blew up fairly quickly. Like, I think we got 100,000 followers within a couple months. And so I realized the power of storytelling with video on TikTok, even though at that time you could only do 15-second clips. You couldn't do beyond that. And then when Instagram integrated Reels, we were like, okay, video is definitely where social media is going. It's not just TikTok. So then I really sat down and decided, okay, video is just way more entertaining to watch. You can get so much more out of it by watching it for 15 seconds rather than watching a photo for 15 seconds. So we started to grab everyone's attention with that, whether it was a quick little TikTok or reel that we just created on our own, or we started implementing when we did new releases to tell the story behind it. With social media getting so much with video, I feel like people's attention spans really went down. When before Instagram, you would have to have these beautiful curated profiles, and it was easy to like tell story over time. But now like people are seeing 20 posts in a minute. So I was like, hey, unlike with the Milk Maker t-shirt, when we released that, I had probably about a month to like curate content, talk about what the meaning is behind this. But now I only have 15, 30 seconds. How are we going to do that? So when we started releasing new collections, we decided to always implement video with it as well to kind of help tell that story. And so one of our big ones we did at first, because we would do 30-second clips, but then we hired a videographer to help us with the alumni and retired Milk Maker collection. And that was just an amazing story that needed to be told, but we needed to be able to do it under 60 seconds. And we sat down with him. He helped us get through all of that. And so then people can like go on and see the story behind it. Instead of just seeing a retired Milk Maker t-shirt, like, oh, that's cute, that's kind of funny. They get to watch this video and understand why we created it, the meaning behind it. My mom actually was the star of it because she's the one who initially told me to go feed in the bathroom. And now she's my biggest supporter. And I feel like most people know that story if they follow us. So like that was an important storytelling element in our videos. And then, so the last one we just did was our If Lost text, the little milk bar. And we have like our community text number. In that video, it was important for people to understand in motherhood, we feel lost all the time. It doesn't matter if you're breastfeeding or not breastfeeding. It's motherhood is just, you feel lonely, you feel lost, you don't know what you're doing. And so throughout the video, we kind of talk about that. And there's this girl who's pregnant at the beginning and she's a new mom. She doesn't know. So she invites her friends over. And then when they all leave, one of the girl hands her a note and she opens it up when she's in the house by herself. And it says, if lost, text. And it's our number. So then she texts us and then it shows me like picking up my phone because we do reply to all the texts. And then I'm sending her a package with one of our If Lost text sweatshirts in it. And the text does work. Everybody asks, but you have to be signed up for our text club before it will work for like legal reasons. So if you're on our text club and you text that number, it does get to us and we do reply.
I'm sorry, but you're a fucking genius. I just want to say that. Like,
yeah. I'm wondering, like, so for all the things you do, the design, the marketing, the running the business itself, the sort of creative design of the marketing campaigns, what's your favorite thing that you get to do as running this company?
And we haven't even talked about this yet. My favorite thing is two things. And one is coming up with a release video. Mm-hmm. I really love because we get to pull from our heartstrings. Like, and I get to decide or not decide, really think into why we designed this. Because we don't just mind your own tits. We didn't just create that because it's cute and funny. Like there's always a meaning behind it. So when I get to go in and pull out why we designed this and put it into a visual for people to watch, it's just really cool. My second and probably my most favorite is coming up with our packaging. Because we don't just sell merch. We do have our alley bras now that I invented or created, whatever you want to call it, and our Frankie tanks, all named after my kids. The packaging, like I want everyone to feel something when they get our package. I always think this is a mom who probably never buys anything for herself. And when she gets this package, I don't want it to come in a brown bag that just like, she needs to feel special. She just had the worst day of her life. Her baby fed 20 million times. She feels like she's doing everything wrong. She's going to get this package and think, this is for me. Mm-hmm. And so like our alley bras coming up with this, like the cutout. So when you put an alley bra inside of it, let me see. There's one right here. It shows the color of the alley bra that's inside. But like, it's just not normal, right? Like it's got boobs.
It feels like a really, really high-end product that a mom with a new baby probably can't afford, but she can't afford it. But that it feels like she's getting like the La Perla experience.
Well, I was going to say you bring a sexiness to motherhood that I think it just is. I mean, and I want to talk about your birth video you did because you used your own birth as marketing, which is, I'm sorry, again, genius. But how did that come about? Because that was for the launch of the birth. What was that? That was like the robe and the birth box, right? So how did that all come about?
Well, I was pregnant with Frankie and we were already working on this new product, and I wanted to have this birth box where it's like, again, how often do we, when a friend has a new baby, we show up with a present for the baby. And I remember my friend, one of my best friends, Julia, she had her first or her only son, but she had a baby when we were 17. We were in high school. And I remember chatting with her about it. And at the time it didn't mean a lot, but now that I'm a mom myself, I understand. And she said something like, when you're pregnant, everybody's checking in on you. How are you doing? And then the moment you have the baby, everybody's rushing to come see the baby and they forget about mom. And that always stuck with me. And so I was like, I want to have something for new moms that could be gifted to the mom. And so I was like, I want to put together this beautiful birth box. And I had this idea of like a robe, because after you're done having the baby, you're either naked or in a robe. And I wanted a cute robe with some comfortable slippers. And we created a boob bath bomb. So it's in the shape of a boob and it smells delicious. And we curated it into this beautiful birth box. And I was about to have my daughter. So I was like, what better way to market it than with my own birth? Because I'm only going to use things that I feel comfortable with during my birth. And we created the robe to be long enough that when you bend over, so you could labor in it and give birth in it and wear it postpartum. And I needed to show all of those elements. So I was like, you know what, let's just, I'm doing a birth video anyways. My friend Shaylin she does our birth videos. And I was like, but let's just use that. And that will be our release video for our birth boxes. And the cool thing about that is so people could see like how it works in action. And I didn't really feel comfortable asking somebody else to market our product while they were in labor. You know, like
what was the ROI on that? It must have been high.
Oh my God. It was, honestly, I don't remember because it was 2 years ago.
The video must have gotten a ton of traction though.
It did. It really did. And I think it was a lot because we did a home birth with her. That was our first home birth. And I think that was really cool because I think a lot of people have nervousness around home births and they got to see what it can be like, that it doesn't have to be so scary. So I think there was a lot of elements in there that helped with attraction.
And you had the kids, and you had your kids there.
Kids were there. Allie was like my doula. She was feeding me. At one time I couldn't take it anymore. And she just held my face and she goes, Mommy, doing amazing. And I just bawled my eyes out, got my second wind. Pete was by my side the whole time. He knew.
He's very cute. I just need to make a plug for Pete here. He's adorable.
I love cute husbands.
I do. I love your husband. I think
he's a cute husband.
I love when you clearly adore him because he's adorable. No, I love all of that. And you know, I think so much of what you do, like you said, is to like demystify motherhood and to open up the conversation about it. And you found a way to make a living off of that. And I think that's so amazing. I just do. It's truly amazing.
I mean, you've come really far from the girl that would have cried in the bathroom had your mom suggested. I mean, I just was looking at the stuff like use your voice even when it shakes. Like that's a very important message for all of us, for those who have kids, those who don't have kids, like men, women, like a very important message.
It goes towards everything. I mean, even like with Coda, my second son, I had a hospital birth, but we did unmedicated and we labored in the tub and stuff. And I even learned to use my voice, even if it shook there, like with our medical staff, and like let them know, like I'm in charge of my own birth. So I'm the boss. But yeah, I mean, that video had a lot of different elements. And I think a lot of demystifying too, like how many videos do we see online where it's supposed to be funny? The mom's in labor and the dad's like playing video games or like eating hamburgers. And it's like, that's funny. Sure. But like our partners actually have a job there as well. And Pete was he was the most amazing birth partner for all of my kids. But like seeing that in a video and seeing like how much your partner can help and how much action they should have and that they shouldn't be just treating it like any other day.
Yes.
Yeah.
Was that the video your niece did the music for?
Yeah. So my niece is an amazing singer, and my brother, like, he produces music. He's got a studio in his basement. So I asked him, can you make a cover for this song for my birth video? And he's like, yeah, sure. So they hurried, because I just got the idea last minute. So they recorded that song and like finished it within 48 hours so we could hurry and add it to our video. And it's just beautiful.
It was Sweet Child of Mine, right?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. See, I'm obsessed with your marketing. I really am.
Well,
I know
I
study it.
Yeah, you've done what we always tell people about marketing, which is you have to make people trust you. You have to like be authentic in a way that people can trust you. Otherwise, they're not going to get on board with what you're selling. Yep. No. And it's like you say so many of your posts aren't sales posts, but like, you know, it's like seduction. Everything you do has to be seduction. Yeah. Like seduction doesn't start in the bedroom, and sales don't start at the cart page, you know?
Right. And you just have to be honest. And those people that think the way you do will gravitate towards you.
Yeah.
And if they don't, that's okay, because they're not your people. Yeah. So there were a few times where I was like, should I not post this? Like our first video or photo that I did was a photo shoot with the Boobs baby blanket. I went completely topless, but like had the blanket over one side and feeding off the other. So you couldn't see my boob like he was feeding on. Mm-hmm. And I remember thinking, should I not post this? This is going to be way too much for some people. And I was like, no, because this is what we stand for. And then I realized the people who don't like it will go away and they'll unfollow. And that's what you want. You don't, I mean, you only want the people who believe in you to be there.
Yeah.
Everyone
and
else.
As evidenced by what happened with the influencers, like sometimes people come around, right? Yeah. But you have to filter them out, because otherwise that's not creating a community like the one you've built.
And you have built your team from people in your community, right?
Yep.
Yeah, yep. Which I love, which we are all about. Mm-hmm. And you travel and you meet people. And I just think like as a founder, you are the everybody should like really look and study you, because you are truly like, you lead with kindness. You are incredibly empathetic. I love and still cry when you share about, you still go into bathroom stalls and encourage moms. Like I could cry like thinking about it. Like you say like, I'm at a restaurant. Like, what do I do? And then you do something, and then I'll let you finish. But when you go to restaurants and you give people like what, can you explain what you do? Because it's like a really beautiful thing. And this is why you need a reality show. I'm just putting it into the universe. Lindsay needs her own show.
So my community we're all about giving back too. So yeah, the waitress thing. So like we will go to, we usually do it around the holidays, because I feel like that's when people, you know, really need more help than not. And to give full like I need to explain all of this. I didn't grow up with a lot. To be completely honest, there were times where like our heat got shut off. So my mom's boiling hot water so me and my siblings could take a bath. Now this is going to get me emotional. So I know what it feels like to not have a lot, and how much stress that can put. And especially now that I'm a mom, I can't imagine having to go through that. My mom's one of the strongest women I know, and she did amazing with us. But I've seen it, and I know how hard it is. So I've always wanted to give back, especially for moms who just need help, single moms who are doing everything they can, sometimes having 3 jobs, and it's still not cutting it. How can we help them? So for instance, during the holidays, I always take my team out for dinner. And we actually have now 3 girls that live like more on the East Coast and Midwest, because they work remotely. So each one of our team members will go into the city that they have, and they go have dinner on the little milk bar. And then we'll put up on our stories and say, hey, we're here. This is our waitress. She doesn't know what's going on. We'll just get to know her when she comes, and we'll say her name's Ashley. She's a single mom. She's got 2 kids at home. If anybody wants to help, we're leaving. We want to leave her a great tip for the holidays. So we'll start with like $150. If anyone wants to add to it, you can Venmo us. And I think last year when me and Tati went last time, I think it was like $1,200 tip that the girl got. It was at Olive Garden, and the mom had just had a baby. She had 2 other kids, and she just started bawling because she was like, you have no idea how much this is going to help. But then our community gets to be a part of that too, and see, you know, like how how much a little can go a long way, you know, and how kindness is important and kindness is still there. And I hope that it inspires other people to do something like that on a smaller level. Like, even if it was like, hey, I was going to leave them $3, but you know what, maybe I'll leave them 20 today.
Yeah.
I think the more we see of something, the more normal it becomes. I say that often in my brand. And so as much kindness as we can show, even in our stories, we'll do like, hey, if you're struggling right now, we probably do this 4 times a year. Let us know what you're struggling with and tell me what your Venmo is, whether it's you need help paying your kids' school fees, or you need help making the rent this month. You're not going to make your car payment. Maybe you need help with gas. Let us know. And we can't help everybody, but we do set aside some money in our budget to do those kinds of things when we can.
And truly, that is life-changing and world-changing. Yeah. I mean, amazing. Lindsay, if somebody is going through a fresh start, what would be some words you could impart to them?
To trust your instincts. I don't know how many people told me that this was a dumb idea. And why would anybody buy a t-shirt about breastfeeding? Nobody cares. Or they just didn't get it. Nobody understands your vision like you do, because they're not passionate like you are. If they were, they would have started that business. And also understand that a lot of people around you, even though they love you, sometimes they can't wrap their head around making a big decision like that. But as long as you see your vision and you believe in it, then just trust your instinct and don't listen to anybody else.
Oh, I love that. And the hardest question of all, what was the last thing that you ate and truly loved?
Pizza.
Always a good answer.
I love pizza, and it doesn't matter what kind. I like all kinds of pizza, and I will eat. I'm going to have it for lunch today because we're going to do a TikTok live, and we're ordering pizza for the team. So
amazing. Lindsay, you are, I don't even know what to say. Like, I just want the world to know about you, because all leaders and founders should be like you. So keep up the amazing work, and we're so excited to see what's coming up for you.
Oh, thank you so much.
Thank you for listening to today's story. We're always here, and we're so proud of you.
A Fresh Story is produced by Fresh Starts Registry, the first and only platform for everything you need to begin again. You can read the show notes and learn more about today's episode at afreshstory.com.